Good morning, everyone. My name is Sir Jason A. Nivera. You can call me Sir Jason. I am a teacher and a resource speaker in research. Today, I am tasked to discuss with you how to develop an action research plan for continuous improvement of teaching practices. So let us start. A philosopher, psychologist, and educational reformer once said, "We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience." Clearly, John Dewey acknowledged the importance of reflection. The experience alone does not necessarily lead to learning. It is the reflection that makes sense of the experience to us and hence makes the experience meaningful for us. In the same way, reflection is of much importance when you decide to do an action research. The term action research was coined in the 1940s by Kurt Lewin. But what is an action research? I would like to take Dr. Jeffrey Mill's definition of action research. According to him, action research is a collaborative, cyclical process done by teachers, not just by teachers, but any individual in the educational setting, to gather information about and subsequently improve the ways their particular educational setting operates their teaching and their student learning. Of all the research designs, action research is the most applied practical design. Action researchers explore a practical problem with an aim toward developing a solution to a problem. In doing an action research, our aim is to improve our practice of education by studying issues or problems we face. We even reflect. See, reflection is mentioned again about these problems, collect and analyze data, and implement changes based on the findings. Creswell in 2012 identified key characteristics of an action research. These characteristics are: number one, an action research has a practical focus. The aim of action research is to address an actual problem in an educational setting. Thus, action researchers study practical issues that will have immediate benefits for education. Second, an action research is self-reflective. When action researchers engage in a study, they are interested in examining their own practices rather than studying someone else's practices. In this sense, action researchers engage in self-reflective research, in which they turn the lens on their own educational classroom, school, or practices. As they study their own situation, they reflect on what they have learned, a form of self-development, as well as what they can do to improve their educational practices. Third, an action research is collaborative in nature. Action researchers collaborate with others, often involving co-participants in the research. Number four, action research has a dynamic process. Action researchers engage in a dynamic process involving iterations of activities, such as a spiral of activities. The key idea is that the researcher spirals back and forth between reflection about a problem, data collection, and action. The next step is to identify a plan of action. At some point in the process, the action researcher formulates an action plan in response to the problem. This plan may be simply presenting the data to important stakeholders, establishing a pilot program, starting several competing programs, or implementing an ongoing research agenda to explore new practices. It may be a formal written plan or an informal discussion about how to proceed, and it may engage a few individuals. Last one is sharing research. Action researchers often engage in sharing reports with local school, community, and educational personnel. Although Action researchers publish in scholarly journals. They are typically more interested in sharing the information locally with individuals who can promote change or enact plans within their classrooms or building. Action researchers share results with teachers, the building principal, school district personnel, and parent associations. There are different types of action research. Number one, individual teacher action research. Only one teacher is doing the action research. Number two, collaborative action research. A group of two or more teachers are doing an action research. When we say collaborative, maybe they are in the same level or in the same they are in the same department or subject area. The third one is what we call the school-wide action research, wherein different teachers from different subject areas, from different levels, work on an action research. And then the last one is district-wide action research. For example, if your school is a diocesan school and it has sister schools, teachers from different schools work on a particular action research. That is an example of a district-wide action research. What are the steps in conducting an action research? The first step is to identify a problem to study. The most important factor in action research is that you need to solve a practical problem. A teacher researcher may start out not with a title, but with a wondering to pursue. A wondering is defined as a burning question a teacher has about his or her practice. For example, if you're a math teacher, you can ask, how does one teach fractions conceptually? And what are the impacts of that teaching on the different learners in my classroom? If you're an English teacher, what are some strategies I could use to facilitate better literature discussions? If you're a science teacher, how can I take a science unit that is heavy on content and make it more inquiry-based? If you're a social studies teacher, how does using technology such as Google Earth impact students' understanding and application of geography skills? If you're a music teacher, you can ask, how can I teach music theory in a performance-oriented class? And lastly, if you're a physical education teacher, you can ask, what are the best ways to grade students in physical education class? Again, never start with the title. How can you create a title if you do not know the problem to be solved by your research? Remember, we anchor our title with our problem. So it is very impossible to determine where to start with the research process without the problem. Usually, we start by writing a case. A case is a statement of concern. On your screen is an example of a case. I got it from the Action Research Primer for Faculty Researchers, written by Professor Jonathan Prado and Professor Zarin Kadi. Let us read. School ABCD embraced as one of its core values the value of amity. Being amiable is one of the actions of the school in preventing bullying and welcoming new members of the community. Last school year, there had been a number of transferees from other private schools and some from public schools who availed of the government subsidy offered by the school. With almost 300 transferee students, it is presumed that the transferees may have difficulty in adjusting in their new school. During the second quarter, the guidance office received a number of reports from parents about their children's performance in the academics and with socializing with other students. A review of the reports was made via V's academic performance. A case should reflect the interests, the milieu, and the problem of your study. Interest refers to the concern. The concern here is the adjustment of the transferred students. Milieu is the locale of your study. In this sample case, the milieu is school A, B, C, D, and the time frame is last school year. So probably it's school year in 2019-2020. And the problem is the transfer students are showing difficulty on academics and socialization. The next part to write is the thesis statement. The thesis statement contains the objectives of your study. Let us read what is on the screen. This paper will explore the challenges and the adjustments encountered by transfer students. This will work on the analysis of their academic performance and their socialization skills, whether there is a relationship or not. The paper will conclude with an action plan creating a more favorable social and academic milieu for transferees. In this thesis statement, we can see that there are three objectives. The first objective is to explore the challenges and adjustments encountered by transfer students. The second objective is to determine the relationship between social adjustments and academic achievements. And the last is to create a plan of action towards the improvement of social and academic environment of the school for transferee students. Now that you have your research objectives, you can now write your research questions. All you have to do is to change the objectives into a question form. So if your if your research objective is to explore the challenges and the adjustments encountered by transfer students, your research question would be, what are the challenges encountered by transfer students in school ABCD in terms of socialization, academic? Your second objective is to determine the relationship between social adjustments with academic achievements. So your research question could be, is there a significant relationship between social adjustment and academic achievement of transfer students? And your third objective is to create a plan of action towards the improvement of social and academic environment of the school for the transferee students. So you can change it into a question form and you would have, what plan of action can be made for the improvement of social and academic adjustment of the transferee students? The second step in conducting an action research is to collect the data on the problem. In data collection, it is important to determine strategies for gathering data that you would use to generate information to answer your research questions. The choice of data sources depends on the questions, time and resources, availability of individuals, and sources of information. In general, the more sources used and the more triangulation among them, the more you will be able to understand the problem and develop viable action plan. It is probably wise to limit data collection in your first action research study so that you have a manageable amount of information to analyze. However, there is an ethical dilemma when it comes to collecting data. Data collection cannot be coercive. Hindi dapat pinupuwersa ang pagkuha ng data. The action researcher needs to conduct the inquiry in a way that respects the care of the participants. It means that your participants have the option to withdraw from the study. They can opt out of a study if they so desire without being penalized. On your screen is a taxonomy of action research data collection techniques according to Mills in 2011. According to him, there are 3 E's that you can use in collecting your data. You can use experiencing if you're going to observe and take field notes. You can use inquiring if you're going to ask questions. And you can use examining if you're going to use or make records. The third step in conducting an action research is to analyze the data. You may decide to analyze the data yourself or enlist the help of other educators or data analysts. You might show your results to others to find out how they would interpret the findings. In most situations, descriptive statistics will suffice for your action research data analysis, although you may want to compare some group data or relate several variables. The major idea is to keep the data analysis manageable so that you can identify useful information in formulating a plan of action. The fourth step in conducting an action research is to develop a plan of action. What is a plan of action? It is a statement about the implementation of a new educational practice. It might be a plan to reflect on alternative approaches to addressing the problems or to share what you have learned with others, such as teachers, individuals in district offices, or other schools and communities. An action plan has three stages. The first stage is the pre-implementation stage. The second one is the implementation stage. And the third one is the post-implementation stage. On your screen is an example of an action plan in the pre-implementation stage. This stage deals with the current situation, status, or performance of the participants of the study. The pre-implementation stage action plan has 7 columns. First column is for the objective, second for the activities, third for the persons involved, fourth for the time frame, fifth for the resources needed, sixth for the expected output, and the last column is for the statistical treatment. So for example, your objective is to identify the number of non-readers in grade 3 English. Your activities are, you will administer PhilIRI pretest among grade 3 pupils. Sa mga hindi po nakakaalam, PhilIRI stands for Philippine Informed Reading Inventory. The Philippine Informed Reading Inventory is a classroom-based assessment used to measure and describe the learner's reading performance in both English and Filipino. So after administering the pretest, you will tally and interpret the results. The persons involved are the grade 3 English teachers and the grade 3 pupils. Your time frame is sometime in June to July 2020. The resources that you need are the PhilIRI forms and the materials for grade 3 pupils. Your expected output is to identify who are the non-readers in grade 3 English. And the statistical treatment that you can use is percentage. The last step in conducting an action research is to implement the plan and reflect. In many action research projects, you will implement your plan of action to see if it makes a difference. This involves trying out a potential solution to your problem and monitoring whether it has impact. To determine this difference, you might consult your original objectives or the research question that you sought to answer in the action research project. You also need to reflect on what you have learned from implementing your plan and sharing it with others. You may need to share it broadly with school colleagues, school committees, or policymakers in your school. In some cases, you will not achieve an adequate solution and you will need to try out another idea and see if it makes a difference. In this way, one action research project often leads to another. After the pre-implementation stage comes the implementation stage. In this stage, you deal with the activities that will solve the current situation, status, or performance of the participants of the study. So for example, in the pre-implementation stage, you're done identifying who among your grade 3 pupils are non-readers. In this stage, your objective is to create and utilize word wall as intervention materials to reduce non-readers in grade 3 English. So your activities are, you will develop word wall intervention materials, you will validate it, pilot test it, then finalize it, and utilize the intervention materials. Persons involved are grade 3 English teachers, grade 3 pupils. Time frame is from August to October 2020. You will be needing world wall intervention materials. Your expected output is the utilization of world walls will be completed, and there is no statistical treatment. The last stage is the post-implementation stage. In this stage, you deal with the results that improve the current situation, status, performance of the participants of the study. So, for example, you were able to identify who among your grade 3 pupils are non-readers. You have given intervention materials. Then at this stage, you want to determine if there's a significant difference before and after utilizing word wall in grade 3 English. So you will administer again the Philippine Inform Reading Inventory post-test, and then after administering it, You will tally and interpret the results. The persons involved, again, are the grade 3 English teachers and grade 3 pupils. You will do it in November 2020. You will be needing fill IRI forms and materials for grade 3 pupils, and your expected output is reduced number of non-readers in grade 3 English. The statistical treatment that you will use is t-test. To show you the action research process, on your screen is a diagram adapted from Mertler 2008. It shows that an action research has 4 stages. The first stage is the planning stage, which includes identifying and limiting the topic, gathering information, reviewing related literature, and developing a research plan. Next to it is the action stage, which includes collecting and analyzing data. And the third stage is developing stage. You're developing an action plan. And the last is the reflecting stage. You're going to share and communicate the results and reflect on the process, and then it will go back again to the planning stage. Again, let me reiterate, an action research is a collaborative, cyclical process. Now, to ensure the quality of your action research, you must evaluate it using the following criteria according to Bradbury Wang in 2010. The first one is articulation of objectives, the extent to which you explicitly address the objectives you believe relevant to your work and the choices you have made in meeting them or meeting those objectives. The second is partnership and participation, the extent of participation. Third, contribution to action research theory or practice, the extent to which the project contributes to a wider body of practice knowledge. The fourth one, methods and process. This is the extent to which the action research methods and process are articulated and clarified. Number 5, actionability. This is the extent to which the project provides new ideas that guide action in response to need. And then number 6, reflexivity. This is the extent to which the researchers explicitly locate themselves as change agents. And the last one is significance, the extent to which the insights in the manuscript are significant in content and process. By significant, we mean having meaning and relevance beyond their immediate context in support of the flourishing of persons, communities, and the wider ecology. And that ends my presentation on developing an action research plan for continuous improvement of teaching practices. I hope you have learned something from me, and if you have any question regarding action research, you may email me at jnivera3@gmail.com. Thank you and have a great day ahead.